Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to the Sensitive Stability BPD Live Show. Here we talk about a different topic related to borderline personality disorder each morning. If you don't know me, my name is Kevin Reynolds. I am a BPD survivor. I have been in remission for over 6 years now. No symptoms, no splits, no episodes whatsoever. So how do we get there? How do we get there? If you're suffering from BPD, then you understand exactly how hard it is to conquer this condition. You understand what it's like to deal with these symptoms. You understand what it's like to suffer. That's pretty much what that means, right? And most people, pretty much the rest of the world entirely, those who do not have BPD, they have no idea what it's like to suffer with this condition. No idea whatsoever. That's a pretty tough situation to be in. I mean, that's hard. And to feel so alone throughout all of this, to not know where to turn, to not know who to go to not know, how to respond, that's detrimental to all aspects of your life. How can you succeed best you can at your job? How can you succeed in your relationship? And good morning to everybody. Good afternoon, whatever. I know some of you are on the other side of the world. Liz. So anyway, guys, today's topic is expectation versus reality. Okay? And this is because expectation versus reality failure is one of our biggest triggers. It's one of our biggest problems. It's one of the biggest things that's stopping us from actually achieving remission. And it's everywhere. It's all over the place. It's everywhere from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. And that's a big deal. That's your whole damn life. It's in your relationships. It's in your relationships with your coworkers. It's in your relationships with your parents, with your children, with your siblings, with your lover, right? Your partner. I mean, it's at school if you go to school. It's when you take a test. It's all over the place. We have expectations about the future of which sometimes don't manifest. They don't work out. And I know you know what that's like. This is the case for everybody on earth, but especially if you have borderline personality disorder. Man, do we paint a picture of the future. We paint a picture of the future for almost every circumstance. And that is a tough life because it almost never turns out the way that we want it to, right? I mean, we have ideas of how we want things to turn out. When was the last time something actually went right? You know what I mean? Almost never. Almost never. You think you're going to score great on a test, you end up scoring crappy. You think you're going to have this perfect date with your partner, everything goes wrong. And good morning, everybody. If I missed some comments today, it's not intentional. It's just me here today. David had a prior engagement. I don't think AJ's shown up this morning yet. So I don't have a moderator at the moment. So it's going to be hard for me to keep up with the comments. But I do want to make sure you get the message. And that's expectation versus reality. You know what I mean? So when we have an expectation versus reality failure, we can be sent into a spiral. That's where a lot of our triggers become symptoms which start bashing into each other, right? That's how we get to the consequence zone in life, where we are having episodes or splits. You know, the times when we are ruining our lives. Those are the times that matter the most, unfortunately, because those are the most memorable times. And if you want to take back control over your life, if you want to get to a position in life where you are your life, you are what you choose, you get to experience life the way that it should be experienced. Well, the only way to do that, guys, is to get to remission. The only way to do that is to understand the crux of the problem. You have to figure out who you are. You must be able to validate yourself. And if you can't validate yourself, you're going to look at it as a failure internally. And that's the thing we need to pay attention to here. when the outside world does things that are outside of our control and we start to use it as an indicator of who we are as a person, our self-esteem, that's when it becomes a problem. Because things happen in life that are not in your control. That's just part of it. That's called life. I mean, if everything was in your control anyway, then what would be the point? I believe it was the Greek gods that say they envy the humans because their lives are uncertain. You wouldn't want your future to be planned and out for you. And, if you were immortal like the Greek gods, I mean, what's the point? There's no risk, there's no adventure, there's no reward. The reward is in the journey, guys. The reward is in the toil, the tribulation. It's in having to walk through the journey. The journey itself is part of the reward. And I think a lot of people overlook these kinds of details. I think they think, oh, I wish my life was perfect. I wish everything was okay. I wish that I just, had it all. Well, what would be the point if it was just handed to you? And I know that we live a really tough life. I get that. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard. But you wouldn't want it to be easy. What you need to wish for isn't for it to be easier. You need to wish for more skills. You don't want to wish that things were handed to you. You want to wish that you were better. You see what I'm saying? So again, this morning, my moderator and our sensitive stability coach, David Keck, had a prior engagement. So I don't think he'll make it here in time. But I am going to try to keep an eye on the comments. If I don't do that great of a job, it's because I'm doing this myself this morning. Vaughn said, how do I validate myself? I know I'm worthy, but I need it from everyone else. All right, look, that's at the base of our whole deal here, our whole problem. We don't know who we are. What we do know about ourselves before remission, we don't like, and then we struggle to actually validate ourselves. That's a tough life because you're always going to look at everybody else and everything else for validation. Okay? Now, you need 5 things to get to remission. Okay? Awareness, motivation, a will to change, skills and perspective changes, and validation. I often say that validation is the easiest and the hardest to obtain of all of these things. Reason being, because if you knew how to validate yourself, you would do it instantaneously. Now, once you figure out how to validate yourself, unfortunately, you realize, hey, I could have gone back in time and done this any day. You know what I mean? But that's not the case. That's not the case for us. We are left swimming in the deep end with no floaties, barely knowing how to swim. And that's how it feels. The rest of the world, we're looking at them saying, how do they do it? Why is it so easy for them? Why? Thank you for showing up, AJ. David had another engagement and couldn't make it here. So if you can pin any comments, if you're available, AJ is a moderator, so he can help you be seen and heard here. I also want to point out that normally we have guests on the show, but this morning we've decided not to have guests. TikTok's acting up, so it's just going to be me answering these comments here, okay? To finish off on that validation question, I want to point to the fact that we are all individual people. We're all individuals. We're all our own person. What your validation might be, Vaughn, okay, is not going to be what my validation is. Validation is obtained from doing things that put you into the direction of the person that you want to become. You must figure out who it is that you want to become. I often talk about, thank you, Jill. I often talk about how we don't know who we are. Now, that's entirely true. But one of the beautiful parts about that is that we can choose who we want to become. We can choose who we want to become. And that's a beautiful thing. I remember putting my ideal version of myself together in my head. I wish I had done it earlier. I wish I would have done it when I was younger. I wish I would have done it as soon as I could. Nobody told me how to do this. Nobody gave me these types of resources. There was no option for me to figure out who I was. I was just terrified of the world. I did not know what to do. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to interact with other people. I didn't know how to handle expectation versus reality failure, which is our primary topic here today. But I will try to keep an eye on the comments. And thank you, Miss Liz, as well. If you could direct people in the right, depending upon what they need, if you know it's a question that you can answer. Look, guys, I want to help everyone. I want to help everybody get to where I am. I don't want any of you to suffer. I don't want any of you to have to live like this anymore. It's bullshit that you had to deal with this. Thank you, AJ. It's not fair. How can I control having BPD without medication? There is no medication for borderline personality disorder. In fact, I'm starting to think that there is no mental health professional out there for borderline personality disorder. This is the entire mission of my journey. It's the whole reason I do what I do. It's because there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it out there. The BPD remission program that I offer is specifically meant to get you to remission within 2 months. And I want you to understand something here. It's not 2 months because I picked that number arbitrarily out of the sky or out of the air. It's because it's possible to do it in 2 months. And I get what you're thinking here. How can you get out of this condition that's so severe that you've been suffering from your entire life in just 2 months? The answer is, if you had every single piece of knowledge that you needed that would have taken you 12 years like it took me, you can move actually rather quickly. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate all the regular faces. I love seeing you guys every morning. Thank you for being here. If you suffer from borderline personality disorder, you are likely suffering from expectation versus reality failure on a regular basis. I wake up sometimes and I have to remind myself that just because I feel crappy, thank you, Jill, just because I feel bad doesn't mean that the entire day is going to be bad. Sometimes I know it's time to wake up and I'm like, I'm dead, man. I'm dead. I can't move any of my muscles. You know what I mean? I have to force myself to roll out of the bed. I have to walk over to the sink, brush my teeth with the opposite hand than I normally would. You know what I'm saying? And that is a mental trick. Shake things up a little bit. Be a little unpredictable. Your day doesn't have to be the same every single time. You know what I mean? You could choose to be a little different. You could choose to have a little bit better of a day. You could do something out of the ordinary. It doesn't have to be much. I'm not talking about taking a trip to the beach. I'm talking about brushing your teeth with the opposite hand as you usually brush them with. Right? That tells the brain something's different. You need to re-seize control when you are losing control. That's how that works. You're in a relationship, it's not always going to go the way you want it to go. You take your partner out on a date, you have it planned in your head. It's going to be suave. It's going to be great. Everything's going to work out exactly as planned. Man, you know how many times I've said that in my life? You know how many times everything's gone exactly how I want it to go? Like almost none. It almost never goes exactly how you want it to go. You think you're going to get home from work, right? You think everything's going to be great when you get home from work? Well, guess what? It's not going to be great half the time. Half the time, your partner might be in a mood. They might not be feeling good. Maybe they had a bad day. Well, they're not going to want to be cheerful if they're a little depressed that afternoon, and that's going to bring you down a little bit, right? Things happen, guys. The world is not cookie cutter. Zeta says, how can I let a BPD partner feel that I support them and won't abandon them. Well, if you are a partner or support system to somebody who has BPD, you've got a tough job. But God bless you, because we need more people like you in the world. There's not enough people in the world who are understanding of this condition. That's the truth. Now, you can't convince your partner to do anything. You especially can't convince them that you won't abandon them. That's impossible. That's impossible because you don't have control over their abandonment. You don't have control over what they think about whether or not you're going to leave. You could tell them until you are blue in the face, right? Blue in the face. I won't leave you. I'll stay forever. I'm never going to go. I love you till the end of time. I'll never replace you. You are my soulmate. We'll be together forever. You can say it over and over and over again, and they're never going to get that this is permanent. You know why? You know why? It's because it's not permanent. You don't know what the future holds. And I know everybody wants to say that love is unconditional. Love is not unconditional, guys. Why would you want it to be? Would you want to stay with somebody who is abusive? Would you want to stay with somebody who's physically abusive? Of course not. I'm not saying it because I want to freak you guys out, but what I am saying is you want to be the best version of yourself. You want your partner to be the best version of themselves, right? Yeah. I mean, how can you do that if you're going to stay no matter what? I mean, that makes no sense. It requires a sacrifice of dignity and self-respect to stay in a relationship that isn't good for you. And if it's not going well and things are going poorly, then it's time to leave. You know, I love Carolyn to death, okay? I think we're soulmates, okay? But if she starts cheating on me, I'm out of there. If she starts cheating on me, I'm leaving. If she decides she's going to start abusing me, I'm out, okay? And it's that easy for me. You know why? Because when I've achieved remission, I achieved self-respect, confidence, dignity. I will not let myself get used, abused, invalidated. Now, granted, she does not do that to me, but in the magic world where the future changes, let's say she meets somebody, decides she's not happy with my over-the-top work ethic. I can't slow down. It's who I am. She knows that. I give her every spare minute I can. But what if it's not enough? What if one day she decides it's not enough and I can't make the sacrifice? What if that happens? Well, love is not unconditional. Okay? And I need people to understand that. You shouldn't want it to be unconditional. You must be able to be fluid, flexible, versatile, right? Not necessarily fickle, but fluid. And if you're not, that's tough. That's tough because you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of expectation versus reality failure. You will always be saying to yourself, I wish you would do this. I wish they would do that. I wish that, my relationship would go this way. Why can't you just give me this? Why can't you just give me that? Right? Well, they can't give it to you if they can't give it to you. The end. A lot of us fall into the old looking. You ever been in a situation in your relationship where you find yourself looking at pictures from the beginning of the relationship, the honeymoon period? Right? You know what I'm talking about? Thank you, Laura. Nice to see you guys. For those of you who are trying to ask questions or comments to me, I can't read them because it's only me here today. Actually, AJ's here. And AJ, if you do have a chance to pin some of them, that would be great. David is out. He has another engagement. Liz, thank you for answering some questions. I really appreciate that and sending people to me, okay? Laura, thank you. I appreciate you as well. Email me if you guys don't know where to go, you don't know what to do, and you want to get better, okay? Email me if you want to get better. I answer all my emails. I am about 2 days behind presently, which is pretty normal for me. I get a ton of them, but I always respond in great detail. Anyway, I wouldn't want my life to be predetermined. That's boring. I want my life to be exciting. I want it to be an adventure, and I want to win. You can only win if you're playing the game. You know what I mean? It's the only way. And I know you can't control other people. You can't. Sometimes your interactions with other people are not going to go well. They're not going to work. I hate that. I hate that about the world for you because I know what it means. It means that the expectation versus reality will lead you down a dark journey, a dark path. But I do love the fact that when you get better, when you get to remission, and you have supreme control over yourself, none of this stuff bothers you, and it's super exciting. J and V says, what's a technique when you see your partner going towards a split to get them to stop? Okay, well, to support your partner during a split means understanding a couple things. One, you don't have control over them. So, two, if they're splitting on you, then removing yourself from the scenario is probably the smartest option at the moment, because the more that you talk, the more that you interact with them, the more that you're going to push them away. Okay? That's the baseline for that. Three, I think if you notice a split happening, it's not on you, remind them of the facts. Remind them of the facts. Now, if you're going to give your partner some space and they have BPD, it's really important to let them know on your way out of the room that you love them and you're just going to give them some space. That's all. Okay? Because when we separate from our loved ones, our partners, the people closest to us, when we're splitting and physical separation happens, that could be very detrimental on us. That could be very tough. We start wondering, are they packing their bags in the other room? Are they printing out divorce papers, contacting divorce attorneys? You know, we start thinking all types of crazy, far-fetched ideologies, and it's because our entire lives it's been tough. We've been abandoned left and right, over and over, over and over. I hate it like that. I hate the fact that all of you are having to live in that kind of environment. I know that it is just insanely hard to keep up with. And every single normal day turns into a terrible day, right? And that's because we have these expectation versus realities that we can never meet. We can never keep up with these things. Like I said, I would roll out of bed in the morning sometimes with a failed expectation versus reality. You know, I would have one interaction with my wife in the morning, and it didn't go the way that I want it to go. So it would ruin my whole day. I'd let it ruin the entire day. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. How are you going to ruin 95% of the day because of something that happened in 5% of the day? You know what I mean? Ruthie says, and good morning, Ruthie. Hi, Kevin. Can you talk about some about how quiet BPD is different than traditional loud BPD? Sure. So, our regular form of BPD is pretty noticeable to the outside world. Pretty noticeable. Most people can see it, and they say, something's not quite right there. Quiet BPD, we internalize everything. Now, I have experienced all forms of borderline personality disorder, every single type, every single delineation of this condition I have suffered from. I have gone through phases for some years where I was just a quiet BPD. This means everything is internalized. Everything is inside. We harbor the negativity. We harbor, the expectation versus reality failure. We harbor the splits. This is an environment where a BPD person might be splitting on you and you don't even know it. You don't even know it. And I know that sucks because it tells you don't have control over it. Okay? I get that, man. I know how that feels. I know how it feels to have the quiet BPD, and it's more painful in my opinion because you're not getting out the emotional content. Now, there's oftentimes less consequences, because you're not usually in a position where you're throwing chairs out the window. But I guess what I meant was there's less external consequences because we do often punish ourselves to an extreme. And in these circumstances, we end up with more SH. I can't say it out loud, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about, right? we end up with more SI, and again, I think you know what I'm talking about. We end up in those states where unaliving seems attractive, and we're not telling the rest of the world about it. We're just hurting by ourselves. So, quiet BPD is just as serious, but the outside world can't see it. They don't know you're suffering. They don't know what's going on. But you do, and you can see it, and it hurts. And I know that there's some people out there right now with quiet BPD. There's some people probably watching this show right now who are suffering, and they have no one. There's no one out there who understands them. Let me tell you right now, if you're in this show and you feel like the world doesn't understand you, you're in the right place. You're in the right place. Everybody here cares. We all care. And for those of you who need help outside of the show, please join our Discord. You can find it in my link tree in my profile. This is where the conversation continues outside of the live. You guys, you have to understand one simple fact if you want to get to remission, and that is that getting there fastest happens when you have camaraderie. It happens when you have teammates. It happens when you have someone. This is why my program works so well. It's because I am constantly involved with my clients. I am texting them all the time. We do 24/7 tech support with our program. The sessions are great. The modules are excellent. But me being there throughout the days, that's what matters the most. Because we can't get there fastest doing it by ourselves. And I have been through all of this. I used to say unfortunately, but now I say fortunately, because it lets me understand all of you. It lets me understand every person. And I have to. I can't help you by sending you to YouTube. It won't work. I've spent so much money and so much time trying to get better. I have gone to mental health professional after mental health professional after mental health professional, therapist after therapist, doctor after doctor, medicine after medicine, over and over and over and over again. It's exhausting, my friends. It's exhausting. Good morning, guys. I see Ryan and Travis. I see a lot of familiar faces, and a lot of you are here every day. Those are the people that get better the fastest, by the way. Those are the people that end up getting what they want fastest. It's because they're here every single day. You have to make this a full-time job, a full-time mission. And if you don't, then you'll get to remission eventually if you care enough, but it won't be fast. It won't be that fast. I tried really hard to get there. Really hard. I had an expectation with every single professional I saw, thinking to myself, that's the one. This is going to help me. This is going to work. You want to know what happened? Didn't work. I remained in the same place. And I hate that. I hate that everybody out there is telling you they can help you, and yet nobody can. That's sad. That's sad, okay? It's unfair. Life is already unfair. And then you add the fact that if you actually want help, which takes a great deal of courage to do, by the way, because most of us, it takes us a while to say, okay, yeah, I'll accept help. You know what I mean? And then it doesn't work. I have been in intensive programs, some lasting months. I have paid thousands and thousands of dollars for these programs, and I struggled still afterwards. I see studies on things like DBT, which is supposed to be the leading therapy model for BPD, and they say things like, 37% of the people that took this intensive 90-day DBT program have 3 less symptoms than they had when they came in, but they still have BPD, and I'm just thinking, what in the hell is this? Like, what the hell? You're telling me I'm going to pay 15 grand and spend all this time for 90 days to get straight, and then I'm going to come out just being slightly better? Like, what? I don't know what people are thinking, you know. Oh, I do, actually. It's about the money in some of these cases. That's what it is. That's what it is. I wish I could get my program to be less expensive. I really do. The best I can do is offer payment plans, because I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. What I charge, I end up getting very little of that. I have to pay taxes. I have to pay another coach. I have to pay an assistant. I have to pay expenses. And then I end up with almost nothing for offering 24/7 support around the clock. Plus, you get 4 sessions. And you get a bunch of modules. And you also get every piece of my heart going into your case, you know? And that's what it takes to cure this. And that's why the whole world says there's no cure. It's because they don't put their heart into it. I think your average mental health professional could probably help us at least a little bit better if they actually put their heart into it. And that would not take that much. It would not take that much. But the world is selfish, guys. The world is selfish. I saw somebody say they got diagnosed with EUPD. EUPD, emotionally unstable personality disorder, is the more friendly version, non-stigmatized version of borderline personality disorder. Same thing, guys. Same thing. Okay? The biggest thing that we need, though, to get out of this is love and support. Love and support. Half the time when I was having my episodes, somebody would have just come up to me and said, "Come here, man. Come here. Just bring it in. Give me a hug. It's going to be okay, bro. Like, you're not alone. You're not alone in this world." You know, it would have stopped like 90% of my problems. I'm not blaming the world, but I am saying that there is a problem here. And that problem is we're going overlooked, man. We are going overlooked. And the world is overlooking the best people. We are some of the most amazing people in the world. And the world doesn't see it. They don't understand. I got diagnosed with intermittent explosive disorder. I just saw you comment there. Peace sign. I got diagnosed with intermittent explosive disorder, bipolar disorder, general anxiety, massive depressive disorder, ADHD, OCD, narcissistic personality disorder, probably like some other stuff too. Why? Those are all little building blocks on the pyramid. You know what the top, the capstone is? Borderline personality disorder. And when you eliminate that, the rest of the pyramid just crumbles. Because all these other diagnoses, they are all wrapped up into BPD. We have inappropriate anger. We have, mood swings. We have substance misuse problems. We have all these issues. All these issues. And everyone out there thinks that we have these kinds of problems because they're more common. And they don't understand BPD as much. You go see a therapist, they hear the words mood swings. Oh man, sounds like you have bipolar. Let's give you bipolar. And bipolar is a mood disorder, not a personality disorder. Let's give you a medicine. Try this. Here you go. Bye-bye. It's been 15 minutes, man, and you're going to give me a medicine that alters my brain chemistry? I don't get the world. I don't get it. I do not understand how people feel comfortable with that. I will never get that. And maybe it's coming from a guy who got prescribed Lexapro in a 15-minute session with a nurse practitioner who was literally flipping through the DSM live right in front of me. Right? That person doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. They're trying to look through the manual. What could be wrong with this? He said mood disorders, mood swings, bipolar. Here you go. Lexapro for depression. I wasn't even depressed. They gave me Lexapro, and then I go home and I destroy my entire house overnight. Took me 2 hours, $30,000 worth of furniture damage, probably about $10,000 in structural damage to the house, And then I went outside and I got in my Corvette and I backed it up and I smashed it into the back of my Lexus SUV. Rear tires of the SUV sitting on the windshield. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to go into too great of detail in this situation because I can't talk about it on TikTok. It was that bad. But I'll tell you what, there was no consequence. I just manipulated my way out of that like we do, you know? And it was because I got prescribed some crappy antidepressant, like within 15 minutes of knowing me. You think before you could dive into my brain and start playing around with my chemicals, you think maybe you could get to know me for more than 15 minutes? I hate how the world is. I hate how the world is. And like Elise says, Lexapro made me way worse. You know what? If medicines are helping you guys, then fine, take them, right? I'm not necessarily against medicine, but what I am saying is it's possible to do it without it. Oh, hell yeah, it is. 100%. And I'm also saying that they overprescribe, in my opinion, too. They overprescribe. One medicine that gave me moderate results was called Abilify, aripiprazole. But they wanted to give me 2 milligrams of that, turn me into a zombie. I started eating too much, sleeping too much. I lost my ambition, lost my drive. You know, all the time we're scared of getting treated. We're scared because we don't want it to change who we are. We don't want to lose that momentum, that heat. Well, medicines, that's the only time I ever lost who I was, when they put me on a medicine. But you could get better without it. Excuse me. I run my damn mouth so much, man. It runs dry. Somebody's got to speak up for this condition. Somebody's got to say something. And, you know, somebody's got to say that the cure is real. Because it is. Ruthie says, would the mania of bipolar be confused with BPD episodes? Or are they entirely different? No, that is right. Ruthie, that is right. When we go in there, we tell them about our manic situations, our ups and downs, our episodes, our splits. We tell them about all these things. They don't know what the hell BPD actually is. Even the ones that think they know. They don't really understand it. It's so easy to get a bipolar diagnosis. It happens all the time. You know that probably about 40% to 50% of my clients have a bipolar diagnosis as well, just like I got, because it's so difficult to get the BPD diagnosis. It's so hard. And I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry it's been so hard. I gotta tell you, life is difficult in general. The world is built to make it harder, not easier, harder. We're not founded in camaraderie and support, typically. Everybody's out to get whatever they want themselves. They're not selfless. They're not looking at their neighbor saying, what can I do? How can I help other people? How can I make life a better place for other people? How? Nobody's thinking that way. The rest of the world, typically, they're thinking, how can I get what I want? How can I make my life better? How can I make it better for me? Me, all the time. That's the life we live in. That's the world we live in. And that is super shameful. It's not us, the borderline personality disorder individuals, who are shameful. I mean, we experience that all the time, but we shouldn't. It's the rest of the world, typically, that's very selfish. I just, God, man. My heart breaks thinking about everybody's suffering. It breaks. I want to save everybody if I can. And that's impossible. I know that. I understand that. I'm not delusional about the situation. But what I am saying is I see a lot of same faces in here every day. And I'm like, thank God, man, I'm reaching some people. And reaching some people is better than reaching no people. So I just want to help everybody who wants the help, who actually knows they're ready for the help. I can't take everybody. My remission program cannot support everybody because it's still a two-man band. It's just me and David running it. And we can only help but so many people at a time. Otherwise, the quality of the service gets too low. So I have to be very careful in who I take on. You know what the most important quality is that I look for in order to take a case? You have to have a will to change. If I can't detect a will to change in you, I can't take your money. That's very scummy because I know it won't work. So I'm honest about that. I just can't help you if you aren't willing to help yourself. You have to be willing to jump when I say jump. You have to be willing to take what I'm saying seriously. And that's tough, trusting someone else. I hate that. I hate that you have to trust other people. The topic of the day has been expectation versus reality. And I'll admit, I kind of have been a little all over the place. But it all sorts fits the same paradigm here. We set out in life. Thank you for getting me back on topic, Sam. We set out in life looking for answers. But reality is they're very hard to find. And most of the time, when you go seek out these answers, when you go to a therapist, when you go to a doctor, when you go to a psychiatrist, you're expecting them to get you better. How many times has that worked? For me, I saw over 16 different mental health professionals, and not one of them got me better. Not one. I would go to all types of mental health professionals. Towards the last half of my journey, I was only going to BPD specialists. Okay, people who are doing DBT, people who are doing CBT, mostly DBT at that point. People who were listing in their profiles, their resumes, that they were a BPD specialist. I show up to some of them and they'd be like, about that. I'd be like, let's talk about the BPD because I know this is hell on earth. And they're like, nah, we don't like to put labels on things. Or trust me, you don't want to be associated with BPD. How the hell can you fix me and help me out if I can't be associated with the condition I very clearly have, right? And B, they don't understand it's a superpower, or else they'd want us to be associated with it. Having BPD was the most amazing thing that has ever happened to me. And I hate that, man. I hate that we have covered it up, that we have had to hide. Because if somebody would have embraced this for me or with me when I was young, I don't know, I could have been so much different, so much earlier, and helped so many more people. Instead, nobody wants to address this. Nobody wants to talk about the truth, which is there is a cure to BPD, and having BPD is actually really awesome. You just don't know it right now because nobody has taught you how to do the awesome things that come from BPD. Instead, we have just used it for coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms that the entire rest of the world doesn't understand. Lisa says, was told in therapy that doctors don't tell patients they have BPD because there is no treatment for it. Yes, I have heard that theory as well. I have heard that theory myself. Totally true. But there is a cure for it. That's the part that's false. There is a cure. Travis says, what do the superpowers look like? Well, Travis, you're looking at them right now, buddy. Right now. BPD people have the ability to do absolutely anything that they put their minds to. They can climb as high as they want. They can achieve anything that they want to achieve. They can influence the rest of the world. What was manipulation becomes influence. What was extreme emotional mood swings become extreme empathy. You're able to see into the future. That was cool, Zach. I appreciated that. You're able to see other people's hearts. You're able to change any life that you put your hand on. You're able to make any business that you want to work. You're able to attain that degree. You're able to be the problem solver in the room. We're often extremely intelligent people. We weren't able to use that intelligence because of all these negative coping mechanisms. You see where I'm going with that? Regulating yourself, Tina, regulating your emotions is a core essential part of this, but nobody knows what that means. You go to a therapist and they say, you got to learn to regulate your emotions, man. You know, you got to learn to let stuff go. That's not helpful. We need very real skills, very specific skills. You know, we need to learn how to identify what's in that emotional tank that's building before it explodes. Okay? And you do that by tracing emotions to their root cause, the root triggers. That's half the battle. Well, Raina, it would be impossible to teach all the skills in one sentence, I'll tell you that. That's why there's a BPD remission program that takes 2 months. But I will tell you, if you haven't already emailed me, please do so. Please do so. I want everybody to have the skills. That's the truth. And I try to explain as much as I can. I release free content typically on a daily basis on TikTok. I release free content typically on a daily basis on YouTube. And those content pieces are different. You get different stuff on YouTube than you get on TikTok. Okay? I do a morning live Monday through Friday. Every single day, I'm talking about different stuff. We run a Discord where you can get support. The people who get fastest to remission are the people that are involved in the community all the time and take this program seriously. That's the truth. Liz says, can you give us examples of expectations versus reality in BPD? Yes. We expect that our partners will love us the way that we love them. That's an expectation versus reality failure. Look, guys, the rest of the world, they're never going to understand us. We expect them to, though, right? We expect them to. That's an expectation versus reality failure. You keep saying to your partner, you keep saying to your loved ones, why don't you understand? You never understand. Listen to me. Just let me talk, you know? And then even if they listen to you and you talk, they still don't get it, man. They never understand it. They never will. That's an expectation versus reality failure. You do something nice for someone. You expect it to be reciprocated. And it's not. Because we go over the top. We are givers. We are people pleasers. We put people on pedestals. That's a superpower in disguise. You just don't know how to use it yet. But before you know how to use it, you sure the hell want to be acknowledged for it. And when you're not, expectation versus reality failure. These trigger points send us into the downward spiral that ends up in the consequence zone where we have episodes and splits. We get erratic and we make decisions that we regret. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. To solve the expectation versus reality failure, you must change your perspective about everything. Everything. West says, will my BPDX speak to me again after devaluing me? Well, it depends on the situation. West, the truth is every single situation is different, and it is that way, my friend. In this situation, I'll give you a blanket answer here. Thank you, Anka. I'll give you a blanket answer, but I do encourage you to email me and tell me your full story so that I can give you some more personalized guidance, okay? I respond personally to all my emails, and I put my heart into it every time. I really do. I'll tell you, though, a lot of times when a BPD person has devalued you, they don't really mean what they're saying. I mean, maybe in the moment, but not really. We regret it. We feel guilt. We feel shame. We feel embarrassment. We feel those emotions very heavy. Very, very heavy. We go to jail, so to speak, emotional prison, for a very long time when we mistreat someone. We take it out on ourselves, man. We punish the hell out of ourselves. And I'm not going to go into as much detail about that punishment that we issue to ourselves, but I will say that it doesn't mean that the good times weren't real. It doesn't mean that you didn't share something. It doesn't mean that the love wasn't real, and they very well may come back. But we don't have as much control over when they come back. The only thing we really can do in your situation is tell them that you love them and that you're there, right? Give them the space. That's the best play in most cases. That's a blanket answer, though. Please do email me so that I can give you a more personalized response. Sam says, when I found out I had BPD, my splits almost got worse, harder to control. I don't understand why. Well, there could be a lot of things going on there, Sam. Age plays a factor. Awareness plays a factor. And then, once you have BPD, you're like, okay, now what? Now what? That doesn't solve the problem, right? That's not answering your problems. It helps you understand where to get help. It let you find me, for example, right? It let you find this community. So had you not known you had BPD, you're at a significant disadvantage in life. But the problem is, once you know you have it, you still can't just instantly fix your life like a light switch. You can't do it like that. It takes really hard work, and it can be frustrating. And I feel for you, Sam. Please do reach out. We're here. There's a Discord and Linktree in my profile, and you'll see a lot of the similar faces that you see here. All the familiar faces here will be there. I jump in there when I can. David jumps in there at least a couple times a day usually. J&V says, how can you show your BPD partner reality beyond facts without seeming to them that you're controlling them? Sometimes it's hard to communicate with somebody who has BPD. J&V, a lot of us with BPD, we actually want to be in control all the time. This is because we started out life as victims. Okay? We started out as victims. And we didn't choose to be victims. We didn't choose the trauma that happened to us. And as we grow up, we start saying, oh, I got to control everything. I don't want that to happen. I don't want this to happen. I got to make sure I control everything that I can put my hands on in my life. Right? And that's what we do. That's why we as BPD people become extremely controlling. Now, you as a partner are going to have a very difficult time controlling us. Explaining to them the facts, it might be hurtful. That's part of the problem. And yes, it might seem like you're controlling us. I would say that relaying your feelings is probably a better bet to get the message across. You tell them how you're feeling in the relationship, in life, for example, and try to approach it with empathy and give them empathy at the same time. When you're talking to somebody, anybody, whether you have BPD or not, are you guys ever thinking about how the other person feels? I mean, really though, putting yourself in their shoes and imagining being them without any biasness or any of your own thoughts. Can you do it? Do you have that skill? Because if not, it'll make your life a lot better to start practicing it, I'll tell you that. Vasti says, please talk about the guilt and shame and fear after going black. I like how you phrase that, man. That's good. That's good. Anyway, yes, so we go through a cycle, and that cycle works like this. We have a few normal days. We have a trigger zone. Stuff happens, triggers us. Then we have the symptoms, and then the symptoms start bashing into each other and creating other symptoms, and then we hit the consequence zone. This is where we have episodes. This is where you have splits. Then we hit the guilt, blame, shame, and embarrassment zone, right? That is one of the most hardest, most difficult periods of our life, and it's constantly happening because it's constantly within the cycle. The guilt, blame, shame, and embarrassment is what lowers our self-esteem. It's what forces us to not know who we are. It's what creates that lack of validation. It's what makes us not like ourselves. It's what makes us upset about the future because we think we'll never change. It's what makes our present world terrible because we can almost not live with ourselves. It's what makes the past terrible because we ingrain new memories. New negative memories are ingrained within us. because of the deeper emotions that guilt, blame, shame, and embarrassment brew. We have to eliminate it from the cycle altogether, knock it right out, and increase the amount of normal days so that you have better memories. Laura says, if you've never been here before, you're not alone. Email Kevin and join our Discord. Links in the bio. Yes, link is in my bio. Thank you, Laura. I really appreciate that. And there is no specific terminology for what I'm describing. I just call it our BPD cycle. This is something I have identified. It's not something that's in a book somewhere. I identify, after working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of BPD people and having lived with it myself, that there's a very distinct and defined cycle, and that is what I'm describing. And we all live in it. Some of us don't have the apology zone up here, and some of us experience less symptoms or less guilt, blame, shame, and embarrassment, right? We're not all the same, but it's very clearly a paradigm, and it's very obvious to me. Liz says, why do our episodes and splits get so much worse when we enter a relationship? Because relationships are high in emotional content, and this is an emotional condition. The more emotional the memory, the more emotional the circumstances, the more emotional the interpersonal relationship, the more emotional that you're going to be. And we want so badly to be loved. We want so badly to be accepted. We want so badly to be seen and cared for and heard, acknowledged, and nobody understands that. So, of course, you're going to go through life. It's going to be very difficult for you. If you have borderline personality disorder and you are not in remission yet, it is hard. So change your expectation versus reality. Focus on what matters to get better, but understand that your expectations might not be reality. That's half of this. If you can move through life from this point forward, right, without letting your expectations determine your actions. What do I mean by that? I mean, something doesn't go your way, you can't break down. Okay, you can't break down. Now, we are kind of hitting the end of our lives, so if you have, there's no need to pin any more comments. Thank you so much for being here this morning, AJ. I really appreciate that. I won't be able to answer any more of the comments today, but if you didn't get your comment answered, please ask on Monday. We go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. US EST every day during the weekdays, and you can email me. You can email me if you have a question that didn't get answered. I want to hear from you. The truth is, I understand this condition better than anybody on the face of the planet, man. I am in it to win it. I am locked and loaded, baby. I mean, I am full on focused on borderline personality disorder. I almost always know what to say, and I say always because it's really always. I always know what to say. I know that life has been terrible. I know that life is suffering. I know that you felt completely alone. I know this because I felt completely alone. I know this because I felt all of the suffering. I'm not just some random mental health professional, man. I'm somebody who is in the trenches with you. I am right there on the front line. Everything's flying by my head, exactly like you. I didn't leave the trenches. I got better. I got to remission, but I didn't leave the trenches. I chose to stay. And you know why? It's because you need me. I know what it's like to go through this condition by yourself. It took me 12 years to get there by myself, man. It was a difficult, arduous journey. It required tenacity. It required every bit of my attention and intelligence to get out of this. But I know that you're like me. You have that intelligence. You have that tenacity. You have that ability. You can get out of this. Look, if I can get out of this, anybody can. And if nobody's ever told you before, I believe in you. I believe you can do it. If you've showed up to this live, you've already made the first step. That said, guys, I want you to have a beautiful day today. Do something great, okay? Thank you, Jill. I really appreciate it. Have a nice day, and think of all of us here in the community when you do something great. Stand out today. Make someone else's life a little bit better. I'll see you Monday morning, 7 a.m. US EST. Thanks for being here, guys. I love all of you.